It's November 2nd, 2021. I'm here. Today they're doing this, the New York City is doing some, well, November 2nd is generally, it's the day that they use for voting on something. But in my position amongst the humans, I have no idea how they pick the candidates, like how they're chosen, what their careers were before, how they narrow it down to just two, one for a Republican, one for a Democrat. They never really use the ticket of independence. And so it's a little confusing how their process works since the humans don't explain it. They haven't taught it. It's just they all follow one another blindly, it feels like. And then when they're given an instruction like pull put a name on a paper, here's your two options, then they do, and they're just like praying for like, oh, I hope this one's gonna do something right. It's a 50-50 shot, I guess. Um so now last year during this COVID, my Mayan calendar baby was forced out of the public school of, I don't know how any of these children got to the neighborhood, but my son is clearly different than everyone else in the class. It's like having one special needs child who looks so radically different than all of the rest of the non special needs children. And you know your kid is the one with, like, that looks totally different. So they took him out of that situation and they put him in homeschooling almost in like a remote location. So now he has to use a computer, which I'm against. I really don't want him infected with this computer. I found out, I asked one of the children in the schoolyard yesterday for the how to say the word computer in Spanish. She was Hispanic herself. She said to me, it's computadora. I'm like, computadora? Well, C-O-M, is like the first three communication. I'm like, and then adore. I was like, you love to communicate, huh? And so she started laughing, and I said, I don't know. I said, I've never been for these computers, but whatever. So now going back, last year, my son had no interaction with other children whatsoever in in the area, and it was all on the computer. I really don't feel like they learned anything. I mean, and it's bad for his eyes. All this artificial light coming in. I mean, being human is supposed to be interacting and performing tasks and feeling a sense of pride in that you accomplished something and you contributed to a greater good. All of that's been removed from this area. I mean, since I arrived in 1978. So now, in this school year, for 2021, they reopened the schools. So now he's in school with interpersonal relationships of some sort. I mean, he's still clearly, we'll call him the special need kid because he's only one amongst a population of something very different, who, by the way, are very kind to him in the classroom. So I appreciate that. Thank you. But today, because of elections, they said the school's still on, but the teachers are working from home. So now Lewis, because I mean, not that I'm refusing the computer, it's just I'm not good with it. I don't really get it. I really don't want to get it. And I really don't care about it. Lewis is using some computer, I think it's 1975's computer, to try Anthony T. Free on 1975. They're using his computer, it's a Toshiba, to try to get into this fourth grade classroom. Because last year it was third grade. There were so many technical difficulties. It was horrid. There was no real learning going on at all. It was more technical difficulties. Like, I felt honestly it was saboteur. Like it was personally programmed and like nothing functioned right because of my dislike for computers. But whatever. Purposely cyber targeted is what I feel like. So this now he's in fourth grade. He's gone interpersonal all year long, but it's November 2nd, and they sent them home for the day, and they're supposed to log in. But now, again, it's just one day that they need to log in remotely, and it's not working. It now my son is, I mean, I'm not. It's one day, so I'm not really like, really upset and all heated and whatever, because I really don't care. But, I mean, I should, probably. I mean, he'll go to school tomorrow, it'll be Wednesday. There's no real difference between a Tuesday or Wednesday. So, so that's it. But, like, they're trying to log in. They can't get a hold of the teacher because the teachers are not in the building. They're all working remotely. There's no uniformity. There's no structure. There's no hand holding. I mean, again, and then I go back to like, okay, idyllic society. There used to be like a scholar. There was a judge who knew the sheriff, and then there was a scholar. And like those are community leaders that you could go to, rely on, ask questions of. Your families knew them. There was this town, Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361, just to have a basis of where 19th century, 7 decades, 8 years, and into 20th century, 2 decades, 1 year. Just the one town, the one village, the one whatever, one zip code. Doesn't have it. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, in order to teach something, you have to know something. I was devoid of learning anything. So how am I going to teach my children whatever? I mean, like, I can't even figure out how society works around here. I'm like this special needs kid myself amongst a population of keeps to themselves, which I'm fine with, but because it's like my tribe totally just evaporated into thin air. And I don't know how to find people like myself with the same special need I have. So it's very confusing because I don't know, you know, you're always be nice to whoever comes to your face. You respect them, you honor them with listening to what they have to say, and then you go with no anger and no distrust and no anything. That's the way that I've tackled this human endeavor. But I don't know, like there's no craftsman. Like nobody's making I've been thinking about this for like a week now. I'm like, there used to be like costume designers, there was seamstresses, there was hand sewed, there was tailors, there was craftsmanship, and even though it took a little extra time, and even though it cost maybe a little bit more, there was pride in your day-to-day craft and work. I just feel like there's no craft anymore. There's no pride anymore. There's no trade school anymore. I don't know about the rest of the world, but certainly they push for this automation. And now there's no great teachers or scholars anymore either. Like, what are the trades and the crafts? I saw yesterday that Iceland, they have this new tourist industry that they were pushed into with the melting ice. They just like last year or the year before, they had a dairy farm. They were dairy farmers for generations. Now all of a sudden they had to sell their cows or whatever with the cows, and now they have to take people on tours of the ice melting. What for? And I saw the people that they were entertaining. This is ridiculous. Um, the ice is melting. We showed you photos. We need to fix it. We don't need to become like a entertainment and tour company. I mean, are you all serious at humans? So, and then yesterday I spoke to one people at the park about the Brussels sprout shaped atmosphere being pulled somehow by like maybe because why is it radiological telescopy? Why is it at a radio telescope? Because technically, if you were looking up at the stars as an unassuming child, you would just have a almost microscope or a looking glass without any radio frequency to look up and admire the stars. But now, for some reason, they have radio tuning and telescopy from the ground with whatever, however that works, with lasers and perfection and mini computers inside of an unassuming looking glass. And then there's radio telescopy, they're saying now, down from beyond our sky dome where we can't even see it. But that is a different science, physics, because you're able to float something without having to rest it on something. That's an unheard of science thought in our day to day. Here, if I want to stand something up, I have to have a hard surface in order to prop it up. But if you get just above the sky dome where our eyes can't visually see into the invisible great beyond, there's no hard surface, everything just floats now magically. Well, how do you keep anything in from floating away if that's the case? I mean, it's a totally different science bubble, but and set of circumstances. It's a different irrational rationale. Here, it's a different irrational rationale. And then you have now competing irrational rationale and irrational rationale between keeping a double compression system and keeping the anatomy healthy. I was also thinking about the multisynchronous dysphoria of the rhythms being off, but it's almost like having dots, like chickenpox dots, on a screen of certain, like here it's one pressure, here it's another pressure, here it's another pressure, and they're all at different rhythms. But that's a tuning problem within the compression system due to all of this short term and long term wave FM AM